I'm here with the wonderful Philomena Manifold, author of Written in Stone. Philomena is a scientist, an illustrator, an author, maybe even a philosopher.
This is a book that I spent about 9 years working on, researching and taking photos and sketching and mapping out the Great Ocean Road. And I wanted to create something that would tell the story of the coast to people without being too kind of dense with jargon.
And what's the reception to the book been like?
The reception to the book has been really good. I was going to be happy with like maybe one book sold, but it's into its second print run now.
Yeah.
And it's been out since December 2017. So not that long. It just, seems to be landing well with people.
And you carried it into the Melbourne Museum yesterday.
I did, yes.
How does that come about for an author?
That comes about by the process of walking into a place and being like, I wrote this book, check it out, I think it belongs here. And that's kind of how I got it in there.
Yeah, intrepid.
Yeah.
I've heard it's called masterful. Written in Stone is that rare combination, a scientific book that is gorgeous to the eye and immensely readable, a must-buy for all lovers of Victoria's Great Ocean Road and its fascinating geology, from Philip Aireys, historian biographer.
Yeah, that's a beautiful quote.
What does that make you think of? Is that what you set out to achieve?
Yeah, I wanted to just kind of contact people with their love of land and the coast, and I feel like it's doing that. It's like kind of giving people a way of knowing a place that they love deeper. Yeah.
And a little bit of your background. How did you get to this point? As far as I was aware, geoscientist with the Victorian Department of Primary Industries, bit of a stint as an exploratory geologist with BHP, research assistant, School of Earth Sciences.
Yep.
Then with a bint in creative writing. How does that all come together?
Yeah, that's a long story.
Go for it.
But I originally went to uni wanting to do environmental science, and then kind of diverted my energies into geology because I just did one subject and just fell in love with the story of the Earth.
Yeah.
And then did creative writing alongside, and that's just always been a passion of mine. And I got out of uni and I thought, I had a spare year because I broke my elbow. That's another whole long story. But I had this year where I couldn't continue further study, and I thought, how hard would it be to kind of do this book? It might take me a year. I'll just get going on it. And then, it just kind of snowballed into a 9-year project. Yeah.
And being on the other side of that 9-year project, is there things you would do differently? Why 9 years?
I don't know if I could do it differently, but I think the creative process is this kind of cyclic kind of moments of inspiration, and then kind of probably pits of this is just never going to happen, and then re-inspiration. And so it was a kind of working on it and then putting it down and going off and leaving it for a while and picking it up again. And I think it needed that time. So different insights, and also meeting people and they'd offer an idea or a concept, and that would kind of thread into the book. And so it was it had that quality as well. You needed to have the moment that shifted the project that wouldn't have happened if you hadn't have met that person, say. Yeah.
And it's an aggregate of illustration and your own photography and then writing, and then is there a particular discipline you got the most out of? Why all these things? Why take them all on yourself?
Yeah.
You a control freak?
Well, I just had this real particular vision of how the book was going to be. That it wasn't just a geology book and it wasn't just a photography book, that it was going to be this kind of weaving of perspectives. And so the illustrations and the sketches and the maps and the photography and the text, they all kind of layer in together and create something. So I always kind of wanted to do it, all those parts, but I guess learning how to do the photography and like doing the research, it all took some time.
Are you happy with it?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, which is a really beautiful feeling, just to be like, I got it to that point. Like there was a lot of time there where I was like, it's not quite, not yet, and people being really kind of like, come on, you're being a perfectionist. You've just got to get it out there. I was like, no, there's more. And eventually, I got it to that place where I was like, I can let this go into the world.
Yeah. And so geology for the layperson, what is geology?
Geology is it's a science, and it's a way of understanding the movement of the earth and the way that forces have been acting on the earth, and we like look into what's happening now with the rocks, and then we can kind of reflect from that on what happened in the past, and it's really a way of telling a story.
And what is geology to you?
Geology to me is being connected to the earth in a way that it's a little bit like knowing a person. Like I know a person through knowing their story and kind of being close to them. So being able to kind of stand here by the Yarra and know that the rocks that I'm standing on are 400 million years old, like that adds something to my connection to place.
And can you talk to deep time?
Deep time. That is such a beautiful concept, and I kind of feel like we all need a bit of it. It gives us such a different perspective on life, and deep time and geological time is something that is almost like, I don't know, kind of impossible to kind of get into the rational brain. Like such vast stretches of time have shaped the earth, and that we're just this literal speck in this long eventful history of the earth, and I think it kind of places today and the context of today and our own lives in a frame that, I don't know, it kind of holds it a little. Yeah.
And for you as an individual sitting in a coffee store looking at the world flitting by and everybody in this manic kind of, say, the pace of social media and the constantness of it, how do you reconcile that between yourself, seeing this going on around you and holding this concept of deep time? I think it's an antidote to that pace that we're all kind of getting hooked into, being able to clock that things take time, like the kind of patience of geological time is it kind of puts a kind of almost like a wedge into the speed of everything, and you kind of go, all right, there's space here. And I saw you doing activity worksheets for year 8s and year 9s down at the Great Ocean Road. What is there for what children in geology? Why do it? Why introduce them? What do you get out of it? Why should parents? What's your message for parents about geology and their kids?
I think kids are just already like totally passionate about geology. Like I have a stall down at Aireys Inlet, and I have all these little rocks laid out to kind of just demonstrate geology, and I have the book, and for like kids just come up and they're picking it up and they're like, wow, what is this? And I'll tell them about it, say a fossil, and the wonder and the joy, they're just like, whoa, that's amazing. And they're like always collecting things, and that just feeds into their natural curiosity. So I love kids like learning about geology. They're so into it.
If there's one thing you wanted people in the world to know about written in stone, what would you tell them?
One thing.
First thing that comes to mind.
It's a book.
Yep. And what about that book?
It's a book that will give you a way of looking at the world that may be a little different to the general way that you look at
the world,
at the rocks. It's a perspective shifter. Knowing the Great Ocean Road and growing up there and really caring for it, I wanted to kind of translate that way of being in relationship with land or place that people already have, but just highlight how beautiful it is and special it is, and then therefore that has that kind of flow-on effect that people are like, oh yeah, this is actually a really important place, and it deserves to be cared for and looked after. And yeah, so that's my kind of mission statement that was behind my book.
And when I think of geology, I think of the land and rocks. I don't think of the ocean. And what surprised me is opening the front cover of your book, and the very first thing it says is for the oceans and all the life it supports. How?
I guess that comes straight from my growing up and being in the ocean since I was pretty much a baby. And I'm a keen surfer. I love surfing, and there's something about the ocean that just is in my heart. And I feel really kind of connected to it and passionate about it, and wanting its value to be really recognised. So I guess that's why I put it at the front of my book, because it is this edge of the land and ocean that I talk about in the book, and I wanted to highlight my love of the ocean and all the people that are doing so much incredible work. Like, I think I put that in there, like, for those who care and value the ocean, something along those lines. Just there's a lot of cool people down the coast doing good things.
So this is a vehicle or a vessel really to get your mission out into the world. Mission, or just, I don't know, just an action, just a response to what I see is how I want to be in the world. And you actualize this through crowdfunding. Can you tell us about that?
Crowdfunding is amazing. It's so good. I mean, it worked really well for me, and it's a form of sourcing funds for a project through community and wider kind of just the public in general. And so you have an idea like a book, and you pitch it to the people, and if they're interested in it, they can offer different levels of funds towards it. So you could kind of pre-order my book at a cheaper amount, and then all that money came in and then allowed me to actually publish it and distribute it and get it out into the world.
And I stand on somewhat of the other side, where I've supported probably 10 different campaigns, maybe 3 of which have been successful. As my experience is, people fundamentally underestimate the intensity of that which it requires, and the capacity to market and to manage and to basically just run an entire marketing campaign around a product as well as develop a product. And generally people have ideas. They're not coming to a niche and giving the niche something the niche wants. So maybe the inverse of that is going to be the answer to my next question. Why was it so easy for you? What did you do that made it successful? Not to say it was easy. What did you do?
Easy, definitely not the word. But I think one thing was that I'd actually already done 8 years of work. I'd already kind of done the book, and I had a sample that was actually, I could kind of do a video, open up a page, show people in the real what they were going to get, and that made a big difference, I think. And then a lot of transparency, like really clearly mapping out where the funds were going, what I needed, timeline, even though that blew out, because that just always blows out. And I think a film. Like, film is such a beautiful way to communicate an idea. So I was lucky to meet some people who were really skilled in that area and help me create a really good pitch film.
So where to next?
Where to next? Hawaii.
Tell us more.
Fingers crossed. We'll see. There's a artist residency in Hawaii that is developed by the National Park, I think, over there, and they're inviting artists to come over and interact with the park and the volcanoes and kind of tell the story of the volcanoes and kind of try and engage the public a little more in the geology. And I read this kind of description and just went, that's me. That's totally me. So I'm gonna. That's a dream for this year, if I can get into that, and just that kind of same process of like going to a place and understanding the story of the land and then being able to articulate it to people in kind of various forms of artistic expression is what I want to do.
So we'll get this video out pretty quickly, though you may be seeing it in a while. Though if you see it soon, close to the release date, we'll include some details where you can send a message to the Hawaiian folk and let them know. Min'd be a great person to have down there because you're a fan of her book. Get a bit of leverage out there. What surprised you about crowdfunding?
It was such a surreal process. Like it was, it actually is probably one of the reasons the book is, I mean, there's many reasons, but just the fact that I committed, once you press go, it's happening. Like you can't back out. Like people have put money in, and it was a real moment of like kind of handing something over, like handing it over and not knowing if it's going to work. And then, just watching this whole process of people kind of sharing this with their friends. Like, one of the best stories was my mum sent the crowdfunding kind of pitch video or program to her writers group, and then someone in her writers group sent it to their swimming group, and then someone in the swimming group was a tour operator down on the Great Ocean Road, Jeff, and he runs these amazing tours in this like tiny little James Bond plane, and he flies you up and down the Great Ocean Road, and it's incredible to see the coast from that perspective. And he got in contact and offered me a flight up in his little James Bond plane, and so I took my camera and I could take all these incredible aerial photos that I would never have had access to if I hadn't have done the crowdfunding. And they're all in the book now, and that was just the way that crowdfunding works is amazing, and the opportunities that come out of it.
Very much have access to different audiences and engage those audiences and find your niche and go and speak to your niche. And beautiful. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Written in
Thank
stone.
you.
Have a look.